Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. I'm going to start a new series number today, a new book. Major Trends in Jewish Mysticism. Remember, my videos are conversations. All I want to do is talk about the books I read, pointing out some highlighted pages, and trying to figure out what the heck is going on in the world. Some people probably say, Rick, there's nothing going on. It's just normal, natural human behavior. And to that I'd like to say, yeah, right. Not. There's something much more bizarre going on in the world. I was driving down the road the other day, and I couldn't believe what I saw. A billboard advertising bottled water. Notice the colors from left to right are sort of like the rainbow. And that one where my finger is here, that one bottle definitely looks like a rainbow color. And right in the middle, as bizarre as it seems, is a bottle with the 3-6 sign. And in the eye of the 3 6s, you can see the hole in the hand, you can see an eye. So this was at the end of April 2017. I said to myself, what the heck is going on? What is this? And I'm reminded also of the meditation room in the United Nations. I made series number 16, The Cult of the All-Seeing Eye. And you can see the 16 here on the top. So when I make a book review, a series number, I write it on the book so I know. So I'm driving down the road. I see the 3-6 sign. Is there anybody who doesn't know what that means? 3 6s, the mark of the beast. A couple interesting books. If you want to know who the beast is the serpent. Satan, Lucifer. And the Holy Serpent of the Jews, Tex Mars. That's number 91 in my series. I made some book reviews. So Tex Mars was doing a lecture, having a lecture. And at the end of the lecture, one of the Jewish men stood up and said, I am offended, Tex Mars. And Tex Mars says, why are you offended at my lecture? Aren't we all children of Adam and Eve? The biblical story. And the Jew person reacted, according to Tex Mars, no, we're not from Adam and Eve, we're from the seed of the serpent. That's why it's called the Holy Serpent of the Jews. Even Tex Mars couldn't believe the Jewish man said that. He's like, you're actually admitting that? So So Lucifer, Satan, according to the book of Enoch, there were angels, beings, who were cast out of heaven. Watchers, people who were actually involved with the creation of man, but apparently found women very attractive and mated with them and created all kinds of beasts, messing with the DNA of God's creation, humans, and the DNA of these watcher beings from heaven. Watchers. God sent them, these divine angels, to watch over the rest of us. That would be series 116. And apparently there's this new religion coming, part of the New Age and the New World Order. And they're one of the foundations, the keystones, will be the so-called Holocaust. Again, more Jewish deception. When I say Jewish deception, I should say Zionist and serpent worshiper, Luciferian secret society, and all those temples and lodges, organizations, which, by the way, a lot of good Jews have been trying to warn us about. So you can't say all Jews are bad. Henry Mackau, PhD, series number 2. Isn't that fascinating? This is one of the books that inspired me to begin making videos. I said, oh my gosh, people need to go buy this book, and if they don't, they're never going to know what's going on. And look at the upside down star, and the eye in the middle, like on the back of the dollar bill, and then of course the 6-pointed star. And Henry Mackau was a Jewish author in Canada with a PhD, very knowledgeable guy. So it all comes together. So you got good Jews out there trying to warn us. Got a few books here to get going through. Edward Hendry, The Bloody Zion, goes into great detail. You can see all my tabs. Series number 69. An amazing amount of material in my 69 series. And my series, if you search this on YouTube videos, just put in Freemasonry and Satanism, book review, whatever number, and it'll give you all the videos in that series. Or go look at my website, rickmiracle.com, in the top left-hand side, and there should be a link where you can see them and cut and paste and make a cheat sheet. Should you want to control and have a list on how you look at this project that I've done since 2005, reading books, started making videos in 2013, and this is 2017. Constance Coombe, look at the rainbow. We all know the rainbow is the symbol for the gay agenda. We also know it's the symbol for the New Age. So what's going on with this? Who's behind it? Who put up this billboard with the mark of the beast, the eye, and the color of the rainbow? They're becoming very blatant, and it's coming out of the United Nations and as Zionist Israel and the Rothschilds, Illuminati banksters, and the Freemasons. And I know people go, Rick, leave the Freemasons out of it. What have they got to do with the New Age? Well, one thing is they've been publishing for 100 years a magazine called The New Age with all the symbols on it. I made videos on these. Guess I didn't write the number on there, but if you just look up Freemasonry and Satanism, book review, the New Age, you'll find these. So these dots are connecting. The more and more I put it together, so there's a fistful of books. So here I am reading Major Trends in Jewish Mysticism. What I was trying to find out, plain enough, is after reading the Encyclopedia Judaica and making many hours of videos, starting with, look at my little cheat sheet here I made. And I got pages and pages of this. Here's another page. All the videos, how many in the series? There's 4 pages here. So, after finding out about the Encyclopedia Judaica, watching a video by Harry Hubbard, might want to go watch some of his material. Seems like a very sincere researcher, along with many other people on the internet, alternate news sites, writing books, making videos, magazine articles, like Henry Macau has plenty of published material and a website. But just to make a short, brief thing here, Encyclopedia Judaica, Series 105, USA Anti-Semitism. Series 106, Encyclopedia Judaica, Jesus. You aren't going to believe what they say about Jesus. And the volume under J in the Encyclopedia Judaica. It's a little horrific. I don't even want to say it. Let's just say they said that Mary, his mother, cheated and had the child. And you know what the word for that is. Alright, 108, Encyclopedia Judaica, Zionism, Kishinev. 109, series, Encyclopedia Judaica. 1666, a Jewish prophet who declared himself the Messiah. You have to go watch these videos. I made two 2-hour videos on that. The one on the Zionist State of Israel are 7 2-hour videos. Series number 105. There's a point to this lengthy description here. Moving on, Encyclopedia Judaica, Zionism. 7 2-hour videos. So here I was reading, there's like 120 pages, if you can imagine this big thick book, just on Zionism, and it description of countries where what Zionism took place. Like they were showing the hard work and effort it was to bring this about for the last couple hundred years, or more. The creation of a national homeland for the Jewish people, now called Israel, before 1946, and for hundreds of thousand years it was Palestine. And the efforts it took, even World War I, World War II, the Balfour Agreement, and apparently even 9/11, all were instigated and executed to bring about the state of Israel, this homeland, this, I guess, focus of organization, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, organization, apparently to rule the world from. The Jewish people ruling over the rest of us, as described in the Jewish Utopia, Professor Higger, in the book, The Ultimate World Order. William Roberts. It's on my series. What number was that one there? Looking at my little sheet here. The Ultimate World Order. 67, Robert H. Williams, The Ultimate World Order, The Jewish Utopia. 4 two-hour videos. So again, I'm making a point. And recently, in this book, I've been taking the time, and I'll make a video. Suffice it to say, I've been reading about Germany, what they say about Germany in the Encyclopedia Judaica. I think that's one of the first synagogues in Germany. In 1034, so 1,000 years ago almost. The first synagogue in Germany. So when people talk about World War I and World War II and the evil Germans, the Jewish people were in Germany, thriving, and notwithstanding the fact that they did have issues, even some of their communities, the people were massacred, ran out of the area for 1,000 years. So again, somebody has to scratch their head and say, why? So I've been reading this. I'm going to make a video. Suffice it to say, in Germany, the Jewish history is quite interesting. There's more there, but so I was reading that. And apparently in the late 1800s, there was a Jewish man named Theodore Herschel who became quite famous and wrote a pamphlet, a small book called The State of Israel. He came up after trying to get everybody to agree, the Jewish people and everybody else, try to solve the problem. The ultimate conclusion he came up with was there was no assimilating the Jewish people with the rest of the world. Now, as we just saw with Henry Ford here, not Henry Ford, well, I got the Henry Ford books too. I've been looking at and reading, and I'll make more videos on these, series number 95. But anyways, it says, Volume 2, The International Jew, the World's Foremost Problem. This is the United States. Look at this. Henry Ford was a good man, automaker. He didn't need to get involved and buy a newspaper to Dearborn Independent. In Germany, 1,000 years, the first synagogue, all kinds of things going on. The Jewish person exclaiming to Tex Mars, we're not from Adam and Eve, we're from the seed of the serpent. Theodore Herschel, writing the book, The State of Israel, finally coming to the conclusion that the Jewish people cannot, will not, no way, no how assimilate with the rest of the world. So again, I'm asking myself for the last quite a few hours of making videos, what is going on? What is it? I read about the Kabbalah in the Encyclopedia Judaica. I made a bunch of videos. So I'm trying to find out what's going on. And watching videos on YouTube, I got to give credit where credit is due. I hear about certain books and certain authors, and I go get the book and I take the time, and I've read a good portion of a very complex book. And I have a video to make on this book today. Number 120. So yeah, what is the problem? Why couldn't they get along? What is their religion? What makes a Jewish person Jewish? Some Jewish people say they're atheists. Some are Christians. Some are Jewish. Maybe some are Buddhists and Hindu. I don't know. But what makes them Jewish? It's not DNA. They're not the original Hebrews when in the Middle East 2,000 years ago, when Jesus was born. They would have been a kind of brown people, would they not? They wouldn't have been Northern Europeans over there in Egypt and the land of Canaan and Iraq and Syria, where all the craziness is going on since 9/11 and before. World War I and World War II. Generally speaking, we're all focused on those areas. Everything else was a deception, a disguise. So then I've been making videos on, I made a video on Jewish ritual murder. That would have been series number 111. I made part 2. So 2 2-hour videos on Jewish ritual murder. Why did the Jews have so many problems for 1,000 years in Germany? Why do they have problems, as Henry Ford describes, in the United States? What's with the Helena Blavatsky, the Theosophist Society, and Kabbalah and Kabbalism? The Theosophist Society and all that's like a foundation for the New Age. Then I've read about the 8th priesthood, initiation, and haven't made a video on this one. That's pretty important. I need to read it. And the Theosophy and the Theosophical movement. A society without a dogma. Recent progress in Theosophy. To the readers of Lucifer. So look at the front of this book. So we have Helena Blavatsky, the Theosophist Society, the foundation of the New Age movement. Stray Thoughts on Death and Satan. ISIS unveiled in the Vishnadwati Tetragrammaton, the Kabbalah and the Kabbalist. And of course, her other book here, many of these little pamphlets, you can go online and get some of her material. But it clearly says, to the readers of Lucifer. I'm not making this up. And they had a company called Lucifer Publishing Company and Lucifer Magazine. So it doesn't take rocket science. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. And with the other stuff I was mentioning, I've been reading this book, By Way of Deception, by a Mossad, that'd be like the CIA, the FBI over here in the United States. Mossad is the Israeli intelligence agency, and one of the intelligence officers found out that it wasn't a very altruistic, nice organization, and he managed to escape. And usually if you try to escape from these organizations, you get killed. So I've been reading this more than halfway through. I'll have to make a video on that. Quite an interesting story. Very revealing. To give you a short synopsis, he says, and he's a Mossad, Israeli intelligence agent, an officer, and they have a name for the rest of us, non-Jews in the world. We're called targets. And of course, I'm also working on the UFO alien ascension material that we all see. The big lie. The big deception, I call it. And it's not just me, but famous people like Jacques Vallée. Messenger of Deception. I have to read this. UFO contacts and cults. So the bottom line, I said all that stuff because we can't believe anything. I got a letter in the, not a letter, but a regular monthly newsletter from Tex Mars. And it sums up a lot of all the stuff I just showed. and it'll make a little sense when I start reading from this book. So I think I'll look at his Power of Prophecy letter he sent me and see what we all think. What you think, what I think. There's a comment section below on my videos. Truth is a tough commodity to come by. It is always in short supply. So remember, these people who control our world seemingly have a lot to hide. Look at that 3-6 sign and the eye and the rainbow colors on that billboard. And of course, Katy Perry, there's a lot of controversy on her recent video. If you haven't seen it, I'll just tell you the name of it. Quite bizarre. Katy Perry, chained to the rhythm official. So I went and looked it up a little bit about Katy Perry. Just showing you there's some bizarre stuff going on. Completely off the chart bizarre. So you can go on Yahoo image site and you can get these images on any particular word you want, pretty much. But I'm saying, just like that 3-6 thing on the bottled water commercial with the eye and the colors, it's all here in her video, Chained to the Rhythm, RHYTHM, Chained to the Rhythm. Amazingly enough, it has 200 million views on YouTube, that video. So it's another message, satanic message, Illuminati, New Age, New World Order message. Just like the one that she did in the Super Bowl halftime show or the Grammys, the one with the bull and all that. You just go look up on Yahoo Images or Katy Perry and occult symbolism. And Madonna's been doing it, Beyonce has been doing it, Lady Gaga's been doing it. So this all comes out of Hollywood, and of course Hollywood is controlled by these peoples, just like the banks. These people into this Luciferic thing, into the Kabbalah, into witchcraft, into the New Age and the New World Order. People who control organizations like the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, the Bohemian Grove, Knights of the Club of Rome, Bohemian Grove, Bilderberger groups. I could go on for an hour or two or just read that book, Constance Kumbi, Beware of the Rainbow. The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow. This lady was an attorney who became a writer. Started to do some research, and as you have been seeing with my research, it's not hard to find the material. But the Katy Perry video was pretty revealing. Chained to the Rhythm. You can see here's her doing the video cover, I guess. That's what she's doing. Whether it's her or just an image. So I'm just trying to say in a way, they're mind controlling us. And you're going to find out that there's something to this stuff, symbolism. When we read in Major Trends in Jewish Mysticism, this Kabbalah, this other world, and then of course they don't want people to believe in God or pray. Rabbi Marvin Antelman wrote the 2 books, Volume 1, Volume 2, to eliminate the opiate. The opiate is like taking opium. It's a drug that soothes you and makes all your problems go away. Well, people who have faith and believe in God and pray and are good people, it soothes them and their problems go away and they feel good and safe in the world with their trust in God. So these powers that are into this evil stuff don't want people to be looking towards God or praying or having faith in God, because apparently it's more powerful than their magic. To just make an easy example of what it's all about. God's power and prayer in God and trust in God is more powerful than the satanic things and we see on the TV, movies, Super Bowl halftime shows, Grammys, Emmys, Olympic openings, and so much more. The grand opening for that tunnel system in Switzerland. Completely insane. Satanic. Some kind of evil ritual. So anyways, let's look at this letter, then I'll move on to the book reading. But I think the opening here was kind of important. So, Shlohinsky, saying the name wrong, it's a Russian leader, and historian stated, "One word of truth outweighs the world." George Orwell, the British writer and philosopher who gave us the classic novel, 1984, once said, "Telling the truth is a revolutionary act." Telling the truth is a revolutionary act. So you can see that we are at war, apparently, according to everything I just showed you, and much more. Hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos I've made on YouTube, a couple hundred books and thousands of videos I've watched, a couple hundred books I've read, hundreds and hundreds of magazines I have and collected, and tens of thousands of press releases I print out and have gone over. We're at war. We're under attack, and it's something spiritual. And it's just like at the beginning of the age of Pisces, 2,000 years ago. God sent, this is my explanation, another, I'm not going to say prophet because we were taught to call him a Messiah, but another human being with the Spirit of God in him, Jesus, who is called the Son of God. So even Jesus said to the Jews in the temple, apparently when he overthrew the money changers' tables, "Ye are the killer of your prophets." So prophets have been coming to earth for a long time. It's the way God apparently sends spiritual beings, like we all are, in these biological bodies. But every now and then he sends a spirit into somebody, or maybe they were born that way, I'm not sure, of course. And they're called prophets. So he's been sending them since mankind existed. It's the spiritual realm communicated with this realm. And Jesus said to the Jews back then, the Pharisees, the leaders, "Ye are the killers of your prophets." So there is a way of communicating between that world and this world. And apparently there are some fallen angels or watchers or archons that are here now plotting to destroy we people, we humans, maybe out of hatred for God. Remember, they were revolutionary, they were cast out of heaven. Maybe out of hatred towards we humans because they're jealous of us. And apparently part of the science of communicating with these beings is the Kabbalah. Very convoluted, complex, confusing conversation. The 4 C's. C, 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 C. I just made that up. So let me get back to this letter here. Indeed it is. Telling the truth is a revolutionary act. So like I was thinking earlier, the people, the entities, not only humans, but the entities that we are at war against, would like to destroy the truth from getting out there, what's going on. And I've spent a few years, and a lot of other people have spent longer time than me, and one of the things I do is read books by a lot of famous people, because those books are obscure, have been forgotten. And when I was contemplating doing research and writing a book, maybe many books, it occurred to me that somebody needed to go over all these books that have been written and share them with people to get this information out. This information cost a lot of people many years of their lives, even cost them their lives, careers, destitution. So the people who were in power tried to destroy and ruin people who were trying to get the truth out. So back to Tex Maher's letter. Indeed it is, and then perhaps it is why Jesus Christ promised his followers, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." John 8:32 in the Bible. So here was, again, I don't want to call Jesus a prophet. We're told he's a Messiah. But another spiritual being from the heaven world came and tried to teach us, the people, to love one another and treat each other how we want to be treated. The Pharisees didn't like that at all. They wanted a Messiah come who would make them a great people, be a great king, and destroy all the other peoples all over the world. They wanted to be the conquerors. They wanted the fame. They wanted to be the aristocrats of the world. Just like that, the Jewish Utopia book and so many others I've gone over and will go over. Truth is so very powerful that the fallen world is desperate to hide it. So even Tex Mars is talking about the fallen world. Worshippers of apparently the constellation Orpheus. Apparently there's more than 12 astrological signs. They were hiding one. And that you can look this up. It's called Orpheus, the 13th zodiac sign. And look at the picture. Look at the horns, the wings, the snakes, the star, the symbols in the background. That's occultic. That's hidden symbols. And even on the all kinds of other symbols out there I've used in my video covers. Pink Floyd, the pyramid, the rainbow colors, the eye, the rainbow. They've been using this stuff for quite a while. And of course, they got this thing telling us about some planet Nibiru or Nemesis or some big evil thing coming to destroy the earth. You think it's just a metaphor? They're just using this as symbolism, and maybe this Nemesis, this black star that's coming, is these angelic beings who are bent on destroying us. Of course, now if you watched David Wilcock or Corey Goode and Stephen Greer and the Disclosure Project and all that stuff, and the Galactic Federation and so many other videos, they'll have you believe that the aliens are coming. Some coming to destroy us, and some are here to save us. The Palladians. What are we to think? Scratching our head here. A lot of deception. So back to the letter. So truth is so very powerful that the fallen world is desperate to hide it. The fallen world, the Watchers, the Archeons, fallen angels, Nephilim, Anunnaki, gray aliens, reptilian beings. America spends a staggering $2 trillion per year on 17 different intelligence agencies, each expert at lying to the people. So they're spending a lot of money to keep these secrets from the rest of us. They work diligently to keep the truth from us, and they seemingly are doing a good job. Governments amass power mainly by spreading disinformation and untruths. Saw in the news after sending 59 missiles. I think it was in April 2017, President Donald Trump's administration. Probably the puppet masters controlling him were behind it. To Syria, saying that he had released some gas and were gassing his people. And of course, conveniently, a day or so later or earlier, they released or dropped the mother of all bombs, slightly under a nuclear bomb, on Afghanistan. And anyways, recently, now that it's May, there was another press release. I was checking my email, and it said, Assad is gassing his people again. And I'm thinking, how crazy would Assad be to do that? So I have to realize we're being lied to again. So governments amass power mainly by spreading disinformation and untruths. So by saying that Assad is gassing his people, it gives the government an excuse, and a lot of people are like they're zombies out there in the public. They're very apathetic. All they care about is their own little financial world, trying to survive or have another birthday party or whatever. And they're ignoring what's going on in the world. Eventually, will be much to their detriment. They will probably regret ignoring everything going on in the world. So Machiavelli suggested that leaders acquire power by their uncanny ability to tell good lies. So throughout history, they've been lying to us. Vladimir Lenin, Russia, an unusually good liar who brought communist and mass murder to the world in Soviet Russia, widely noted, a lie told often enough becomes the truth. Think about that. With all this ascension, galactic federation. That implies, of course, a vicious circle in which the governing powers expertly and craftfully tell more and more lies, all of which become the truth. So a lot of people out there, all over the world, Europe, United States largely, because we're the leaders, so they have to lie to we the people, our own government, because if we all knew the truth, they wouldn't be able to get away with what they're doing. That's number one. Number two is they're seemingly preparing to have some kind of revolution in the USA and probably Europe and the world to purge the world of people who know the truth. In a world of treason, when the evil people, the people who run our world, are treasonous, working against us, but lying to our faces, then if you tell the truth, you're the criminal. You're the threat. It's called an anti-government belligerent or an insurgent. We've heard these terms before. And as Hitler sagely observed in his Mein Kampf, the bigger the lie, the more the people are likely to believe it. Can you see the philosophy of these people? In America today, we the people are continuously bombarded by our government with a massive body of lies, and the biggest ones are the ones believed in. For example, we believe that 19 incompetent Arabs, led by a madman thousands of miles away in a cave, perpetrated 9/11. We're also convinced that a lone nut gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald, acted alone in assassinating President John Kennedy. We even believe that a few men carried out a technological impossibility feat far back in 1969 by landing on the moon and triumphantly returning safe and sound. Apparently, it's even more fantastic than that. Didn't they do it 6 or 7 times? Go look this stuff up. And I was an electronic engineering technician at a major aerospace company from about 1979 to 1989. And when I started out, they were using transistors, and it's 1979 now. I finished, and they laid me off after 10 years in 1989. A major aerospace company near Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And that technology, computers were crapping out. They were crashing. And the technology was very poor and bulky in 1979. So back in 1969, some of those technologies was sent to our company so we could repair the PC boards and other systems. And it was just horrible. There's just no way you could have taken that technology and put it on a spacecraft to go to the moon. Notwithstanding the fact from my research, it would be like trying to drive a car from here in North Carolina to California on one tank of gas. Obviously, you couldn't do it. And if you realize that it took a 10-story rocket to get the Apollo craft just into orbit, and then, of course, it had to go to the moon, speed up halfway, then it had to use its equal amount of energy to slow down. Otherwise, it would have just went right by the moon. And then, of course, it needed energy to go around the moon a few times or whatever, land on the moon, take back off, and then, get this, it had to speed up again to catch up to Earth, and halfway it had to slow down again so it wouldn't pass by Earth. Then it had to, and there was no room on that craft. It was the size of a VW Beetle or something, small bus. And the people inside, the astronauts, couldn't hardly move. So where would they have all the water they needed, the bathroom facilities, food, and the air conditioning that it would be required because of the sun's rays? It's just illogical. Anyways, that's my opinion. So that's apparently, according to Tex Mars, his opinion in this letter, too. About half the people today are now convinced that Donald Trump colluded with Russia to defeat poor Hillary Clinton and win the presidency. Well, if you were paying attention to the election at all, and you know about Pizzagate and all the other things, and Hillary having fainting spells or something, and so much more, and the fact that we were given two people of very crazy character, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, to elect for in the first place, is a slap in the face and an insult to all of we the people, which I think was part of the plan. It was to keep us in a dazed, confused state. These people are quite sure that Mr. Putin, a supposed cyber giant and a claimed incredible manipulator, hacked the election and now controls the White House. Confidently pulling puppet Trump's strings all the way to Moscow. And of course, there's a lot of talk now about Kushner, Ivanka's husband, and him being controlled by Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu and the other Jewish elites. So suffice it to say, it ought to be a very interesting President Donald Trump's presidency. It ought to be a very interesting 2017 and thereafter. Everybody's sitting on the fence wondering when World War III will begin, or something else. Then we have Al Gore and thousands like him. Al Gore says that global warming or climate change is what caused the Iraq War and the exit of Britain from the European community. Climate change also is said to have caused Trump's election. If not heeded, will soon flood our coastlines with huge waves of oceans. Watch out, Chicken Little. So my point is get this, go to buy something from Tex Mars' website, his alternate news site, and they'll send you these monthly newsletters, which are usually quite fascinating. There's more to read there, but I think I should start reading from this book so that the video can be called a book review about this book. You ever heard the term taking the slow road to China? Well, I guess if you've been watching my videos, that's what I've been doing for quite a while. Taking the long, slow road to China. I've been making a lot of videos trying to put little pieces of the puzzle together. So you kind of have to go back and start watching them further back if you want to get the whole picture. And I do these little openings for book reviews to try to give a synopsis of what I have accumulated, my view of the whole thing. But anyways, I've made all these videos recently. Look how many I've made. 7 2-hours, 7 2-hours, 7 2-hours. Lord. 14, 21, 60. There's over 100 hours of videos on this page of these books. A lot of that was preparations for what I'm about to read. Even reading this book, I was reading it and I'm going through some very painful, slow stuff. You know, like the beginning of this, it says here, major trends in Jewish mysticism. First I had to kind of examine the book and find out what it was. And basically what it is a series of lectures. And of course it says Jewish Mysticism. So what is Jewish Mysticism? It's more than the Kabbalah. I've learned that. And the first lecture is the general characteristics of Jewish mysticism. Page 1 to 39. So I had to read all that. And it was very important information. It's the kind of information you need to get the background to understand something. So I read all that. And I said, well, that's not what I want to make a video on. It doesn't have enough punch for people to get it. For people to go, oh my, man, yeah, I can see why they got that Katy Perry video. Why they had that satanic opening for that Switzerland tunnel. Why they throw a baby in the Bohemian Grove under a giant owl called Moloch and have that ritual. Cremation of care ritual. And all this other crazy stuff. So I just couldn't get it. I read it. It was important. It was about Jewish philosophy, Kabbalism, the allegorization, symbolism, philosophical, I'm reading here, mystical interpretation of the Halakha and Agatha, Kabbalism and prayer, mythical elements of Kabbalistic thought, the resurrection of myth in the heart of Judaism, the absence of the feminine element in Jewish mysticism. So as you can see, it's kind of dry, important material. To make a video, I would have probably lost the audience. Well, would have lost me. But I have to read it, so I've trained myself to do it. And I did, as you can see. Pages 4 and 5. And the next couple pages. 6 and 7. 8 and 9. So I took some serious hours every day reading this, night and day. Waking up at 2 o'clock, not able to sleep a little bit, and going and reading for an hour. It took me a few days to get through the first lecture. And then, of course, the second lecture was, and I'm doing this methodically from the front and moving forward, so it's taking my time. The Merkabah, Mysticism, and Jewish Gnosticism. The third lecture is Hasidism in Medieval Germany. The fourth lecture is Abraham Ablufa and the Doctrine of Prophetic Kabbalism. The fifth lecture is the Zohar, the book and its author. So I've got a ways to go to read some it's like reading the Bible or one of the Jewish religious books or some thick psychological book. You know, a lot of people don't have that aptitude or stamina to do it. A lot of ADT out there, attention deficit disorder. So that's why I make these videos. Save people the grief that I had to go through. 6th lecture, the Zohar and the Theosophitical doctrine of the Zohar. So there we had the Helena Blavatsky of the Theosophical Society I showed you, involving the Lucifer Publishing Company. You get it? Got it? The 7th lecture, Isaac Luria and his school. 8th lecture, Sabbatianism and the Mystical Heresy. Oh my, we're going to revisit that. Remember when I made that one video? I can remember the number. I mentioned it earlier. Zabbatai Zevi in the Encyclopedia Judaica, proclaiming himself the Messiah in 1666. So I can't wait to get to that on page 287. Lordy, lordy, I set myself up with so much work here. And the 9th lecture, Hasidism, the latest phase. Okay, so I'm on chapter 2, and I read the first 10 pages, and I really wasn't excited. It was good information, solid foundation of stuff. Very interesting read. Holocaust books interpret the significance of the favorable and unfavorable lines of the human hand. So they were talking about palmistry. So your hand, apparently these people look at the lines in your hand, and particular people seem to have different destinies and can be chosen to be initiates into these secret societies and learn all the secret doctrines. So they mentioned that here. So like I said, it was interesting. I was reading it about Judaism, the Merkabah. I can show you what the Merkabah is. I take my time and read this stuff. So I printed out 2 pages. The Merkabah. I don't know if you've been watching any Palladian or channeling videos. And the Palladians, she has this little Barbara Manisek, this little thing that looks like this. Well, apparently, if you take those crystals that look like that, and you turn them around and hold it, it's almost like a Beam Me Up Scotty Star Trek thing. It changes your world in like a twilight zone. Some kind of magic to help people enter some kind of dimension So you can look up Merkabah on Yahoo Image Site, which I encourage people to do. And see that, and each picture has a link so you can find out what it's about. So now you can see this gets a little interesting. The Merkabah. Maybe it's some kind of crystal or some, well, you can see. Some kind of symbols, something to do with some kind of spiritual element in man. This is part of the religion, the very foundation of Judaism. And a lot of Jewish people are very smart and know it. And that's part of the Zionist, Illuminati, secret societies. Even Kirshner and his family belonging to certain sects of the Jewish religion, visiting certain dead Jewish rabbis with his wife in the news. So this isn't just some guy who's non-religious. And even the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, on stage, talking, I guess recently, looks down in the audience, and there's Kirshner, And he says, tell him, I forget Kirshner's first name. I'll get it in a minute. He said, tell him how long we've known each other. So there's a lot of people in the alternate news site are kind of like freaking out, wondering who's really in control of the White House. I was watching Alex Jones and listening to other people. The Rents, Jeff Reese. His video, which one was I watching? Was watching Touchless Torture, Target Humanity. They're using all this stuff against us. The Jeff Rents and Tim Rifat talking about the Katy Perry Chain to the Rhythm. So I've been doing a lot of work. And all this has to do with what I'm about to read. Dr. Penzick warns Trump about the corrupt Kushner and the pathetic neocons. And then, of course, former Satanist shows Everyday Occultism, Prophecy Club. David Wilcock and Corey Good, The Endgame, The Antarctic Atlantis. And so much more. Alright, let's start reading from this book. Those who passed the test. So people who had the proper psychological and physical attributes were chosen as initiates to be these Kabbalistic rabbis, these peoples taught about mysticism. Those who passed the test, page 49, about 10 pages into chapter 2, were considered worthy to make the descent to the Merkabah. Which led them after many trials and dangers through the 7 holy places, heavenly places. Get it? Heavenly places. See these pictures? And before that, through the heavens, their preparations, their technique, and the description of what is perceived on the voyage are the subject matter of the writings of which we are concerned. We're talking about the Merkabah, we're talking about mysticism, we're talking about the Kabbalah, and again, so much more, almost 50 pages of prior reading I did here. Originally, we have a Jewish variation of one of the chief preoccupations of the 2nd and 3rd century Gnostics and the Hermetics, the ascent of the soul from the earth through the spheres of the hostile planet angels. Hostile planet angels. So we have angels on this planet, people we can't see, entities we can't see, and rulers of the cosmos, and its return to the divine home of the fullness of God's light. A return which to the Gnostic mind, so we have 3 different philosophies that are into this mysticism I want to talk about. The Hellenistic period, Greece, Rome, all that stuff. We all know them, Zeus and all the mythology. And then we have the Gnostics, people into the secret societies and cults and all that. And then, of course, we have the Kabbalah. So the 3 philosophies. I'm sure there's more, but that's what they're talking about here. A return to which the Gnostic mind signified redemption. So being forgiven for something, some kind of sin or some kind of crime. Some scholars consider this to be the central idea of Gnosticism. Certainly the description of this journey, of which a particular impressive account is found, is in the 2nd part of the greater Hilahath. Probably saying that wrong. H-E-K, Hekaloth. 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 Have to practice saying that. Hekaloth. And in all its details of character, which must be called Gnostic. So when I get done doing my video series here on this book, hopefully we'll be able to understand what Gnostic is, and the Hellenistic period is, and the Merkabah is. I've been doing my research. I got more pictures. in Judaism, mysticism, Kabbalism, the Mishresh, the Minesh, however you say these words. This mystical ascent is always preceded by ascetic practices, whose duration in some cases is 12 days, another 40. So just like now, people take meditation classes and initiation courses, join these societies, it takes time. An account of these practices was given at about 1000 AD, so 1,000 years ago, by Hai Ben Shira, the head of the Babylonian Academy. Remember, it was after 911, Iraq was attacked, and that country was where the Babylonian era was, greater area than that. So now we know why what's going on over there has everything to do with this occult mysticism. Some kind of return to some golden age. So it might behoove us, as complicated as it is to dwell on this stuff. Think about it. According to him, many scholars were of the belief that one who is distinguished by many qualities described in the books, and who is desirous of beholding the Merkaba, in the palaces of the angels, just trying to show you there's this other world. On high must follow a certain procedure. Well, I guess if you're going to learn how to do this stuff, you might have to follow some extensive training. He must face a number of days and lay his head between his knees, whisper many hymns and songs whose texts are known from tradition. Then he perceives the interior of the chambers, as if he saw the 7 palaces with his own eyes. So leaving your body, maybe traveling to these places. And it is as though he entered one palace after the other and saw what was there. The typical bodily posture of these ascetics, that would be these trainees, initiates, is also that of Elijah, and in his prayer at Mount Carmel, in the Bible, Elijah. It is an attitude of deep self-oblivion, which, to judge from certain ethnological parallels, is favorable to the induction of pre-hypnotic autosuggestion. So we all know what pre-hypnotic autosuggestion is. All this trance type stuff, mind control, putting people under a trance. Denny's gives a very similar description of a Chinese somnambulist, another word I guess for a hypnotist, in the act of conjuring the spirits of the departed. So somebody can conjure the Chinese somnambulist, the act of conjuring the spirits of the departed. I get dry mouth after I talk for a while. And then I start not quite clear as I'd like. So anyways, the Chinese somnambulist in the act of conjuring the spirits of the departed. She sits down in a low chair and bends forward so that her head rests on her knees. So you sit down in a low chair and get your head all the way down by your knees. Thus, in a deep, measured voice, she repeats 3 times an exorcism, whereupon a certain change appears to come. So this is some kind of way a person puts themselves in a trance, like a medium, psychic, over her. So a trance comes over her. In the Talmud, a Jewish religious text, 2, we find this posture described as typical of the self-oblivion of the Hanaya ben Dorser, sunk in prayer, or impenitent who gives himself over to God. What I'm trying to say here is look at this Jewish mysticism and this Kabbalistic stuff and try to see if we can see, like I just showed you the book there on the encyclopedia, and I'm reading about Germany in that book. and Theodore Herschel, who finally came to the conclusion that Jewish people cannot assimilate with the rest of the people of the world. And of course we have secret societies where the initiates, Freemasons, whatever, have to swear on a hand on a Bible or whatever biblical book and country they're in, under the threat of having their head cut off or worse, that they won't disclose the secrets. So doesn't that cause people to ask, Rick, what are the secrets? What are we talking about here? What would cause these people such distress that they would spend 1,000 years in Germany and have nothing but trouble with all the other peoples, and thousands of years all over the world and have troubles with all these people? What's going on? Why? What kind of religion is? What is a Jewish person? They're black, they're brown, they're white, they're Oriental. So it's not DNA. Just questions I ask myself. Finally, after such preparations, and in a state of ecstasy, so I'm wondering, if you want to communicate with evil beings, and they do sacrifice people, apparently, Aleister Crowley, etc., that creates some kind of magical effects, of vortex or ecstasy from these people who sacrifice children. They drain the blood from the child and they drink it, and apparently it puts them in a trance. Just saying. It's a very interesting bit of research here. The adept begins his journal in a state of ecstasy. So I'm just wondering, they don't go into great details and talk about that stuff I was talking about here. Jewish ritual murder that I made 2 videos on. You can go watch series number 111. Series 111. So apparently I made 2 parts so far. On the bottom there, 111 part 2. And I still have half of this to read and make more videos. So I'm reading this book and I'm just curious what this ecstasy is. And the adept begins his journey. The greater Hikahaloth do not describe the details of his ascent through the 7 heavens, but they do describe his voyage through the 7 palaces situated in the highest heaven. So I'm not trying to say all people all over the world, Jewish people included, just because they're into this mysticism to some degrees, like shamas. I'm not saying it's all evil, but I am saying that there are a lot of people apparently into the evil stuff. We see all the satanic symbolism everywhere. Just makes one wonder. Alright, moving on. The place of the Gnostical rulers, the archons. So apparently these watcher angelic beings called archons. Maybe you've heard of them. Of the 7 planetary spheres, who are opposed to the liberation of the soul. So apparently somebody doesn't want we souls to be liberated from this sphere Earth. This is page 50 in Jewish Mysticism. Again, just trying to find out what makes them different. Why apparently they can't get along with anybody in the world for 2,000 years. And of course not all Jewish people. And a lot of the Jewish people that are calling themselves Jews are not. Even in Revelation 9, the Bible, it says Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. And a lot of people have figured out they're Khazarian, the 13th tribe, so they say. White people. Remember, Jesus was Jewish. So a lot of us who believe he was the Messiah, it sort of makes all the Christians kind of Jewish. And apparently the Arabs are a descendant from Abraham, so they're all Jewish. So maybe we're all related, but a certain group of these people are into some kind of witchcraft magic. Just trying to simplify the explanation. So these people, these archons, are opposed to the liberation of the soul from its earthly bondage, and those whose resistance the soul must overcome is taken in this Judaized and monotheistic Gnosticism by the host of the gatekeepers, posted to the right and left of the entrance of the heavenly hall through which the soul must pass in its ascent. So if the soul wants to ascend to heaven, there are apparently gatekeepers, archons. Do you find this Jewish religion kind of fascinating? Interesting? Concerning? What should we all know? In both cases, the soul requires a pass in order to be able to continue its journey without danger. So when you leave your body and your soul is traveling, it's a dangerous place to be. Even people who are into remote viewing, the books I've had, Tim Rifat, David Morehouse, and others, and even Constance Kuby, Beware of the Rainbow, or other books, warn about the dangers of going into the astral plane, into the ether, into the other spheres, leaving your body. This witchcraft and magic and sorcery can be quite dangerous. A magic seal made of the secret name which puts the demons and hostile angels to flight. Every new stage of the ascension requires a new seal, with which the traveler seals himself in order that, to quote a fragment, he shall not be dragged into the fire, and the flame, the vortex, and the storm which are around thee. O thou terrible and sublime. Oh my. So here you are, you leave your body, you try to get into this other world through some kind of an initiation and some kind of satanic ritual, and you have to seal yourself should you not be dragged into the fire and the flame and the vortex and the storm which are around thee, O terrible and sublime. The greater Hekoloth have preserved, these are Jewish books I'm talking about, manuscripts. The greater Hekoloth preserved a quite pedantic description of this passport procedure. All the seals and the secret names are derived from the Merkabah itself, where they stand like pillars of flame around the fiery throne of the Creator. Alright, so I got some more pictures here. And when I do future videos on this book on mysticism, I won't have to continue doing these openings. But I thought it would be worth the time and effort on the first one. Alright. The Hekoloth, we went through the Merkabah. And you can look these things up yourself. That's the Merkabah, what the images I found when I looked it up. And I keep talking about this Helicoth. The Helicoth positions by Rabbi Joseph. So Let's see, what else have I got here? The Halakhic Judaism. Apparently Moses with the 2 tablets here. Just like to look at the pictures, see if they can help me have a clue about what I'm talking about. So these rabbis are studying these books. A few more pictures. Merkabah mysticism. We've been talking about the Merkabah. Apparently it's some kind of description of the throne of God. I'm not kidding. So what do you want to believe? Galactic Federation or these ancient manuscripts about reality, a spiritual world versus this material world? Which one makes more sense, actually? Merkabah mysticism. What else I got here? And they were talking about people chosen to be initiates, these crinomancy, which apparently is some kind of science into palmistry. Which I thought was interesting when we see the eye again. Remember when I started this video? The billboard with the 3 6s with the eye and the rainbow colors. And here's one of the pictures in the palmistry. The eye and the hand. So there's more to reality than we all know. Then I looked up the Hellenistic area. You know, Greece, Troy, and Rome, and all those kings and conquerors. What and the mythology involved in all that? Apparently these people have been in competition or fighting each other for a very long time. Statues everywhere, symbols. A lot of this stuff is in our downtown squares. So if you're traveling to these different spheres, the Merkabah itself, where they stand like pillars of flame around the fiery throne of the Creator. So when I was reading this stuff, I had to go look up all these pictures to give myself a picture idea of what I was reading. Kind of helps me understand it. It is the soul's need for protection on its journey which has produced these seals with their twin function as a protective armor and as a magical weapon. At first, the magical protection of a single seal may be sufficient, but as time goes on, the difficulties experienced by the adept tend to become greater. Now remember, we're talking about Jewish mysticism. You may as well call it Christianity to the Christians. This is their religion. And I'm reading these stuff out of this book, this stuff, by this very smart man who is a well-recognized authority on Jewish mysticism and similar things like the Kabbalah. in the other Jewish books. At first, the magical protection of a single seal may be sufficient, but as time goes on, the difficulties experienced by the adept, that would be the initiate, tends to become greater. A brief and simple formula is no longer enough. Sunk in his esoteric trance, so somebody's in a trance, the mystic at the same time experiences a sense of frustration, which he tries to overcome by using longer and more complicated magical formula. So when these initiates get initiated into these Kabbalistic witchcraft sorcery types of things, I'm just making it simpler to understand by saying all that. They learn all these magic formula. Symbols of a longer and harder struggle to pass the closed entrance gates which block his progress. As his psychological energy wanes, the magical strain grows. And the conjuring gesture, conjuring, like a witch conjures something, a sorcerer conjures something, becomes progressively more strained until in the end, whole pages are filled with an apparently meaningless recital of magical keywords with which he tries to unlock the closed door. We all know now you can buy locks to your home, which are voice recognized. And would that be like a magical keyword and you had to remember the words? It is this fact which explains the abundance of magical elements in many of the Hilakhoth texts. I just showed you the pictures of the rabbis studying those books. Such voces mystical, are particularly prominent in the unedited text. Must be getting tired of speaking. I'm trying to finish up this video. Already the oldest documents of all, the Lesser Hikoloth, are full of them. Nor is this surprising, for shadowy elements of this kind, so far from being added additional, having trouble reading this writing, so far from being later additions or signs of spiritual decadence, a prejudice dear to the modern mind belong to the very core of their particular religious system. This fact has been placed beyond doubt by modern research into the history of the Hellenistic synchronism, where we find the Greek and Coptic magical papyri, so these would be documents, written in Egypt under the Roman Empire, the closest and most indistinguishable union of religious fervor and the mystical ecstasy with the magical beliefs and practices. So you don't believe in magic, do you? These magical interpolations have their proper and natural places in the text only to the extent that magical rites were actually practiced. Every secret name, again, words or vibrations, seems to provide a further piece of protective armor against the demons. So these secret names provide defense, a protective armor against demons. Up to the point where the magical energy was no longer sufficient to overcome the obstacles which blocked the way to the Merkaba. So we started out trying to get to the Merkaba. Or another way they were talking about it. throne of God. Merkabah. This is Merkabah mysticism. The other one was Merkabah. So this is Merkabah mysticism pictures when you look it up on Yahoo image site. Merkabah mysticism. Look at this picture. Are these archons, those men that look like they're transparent and glowing? Think about that and consider the conversation about UFO aliens and all this stuff, if you've been paying attention. So people are in these trances or trying to make their way towards this Merkabah, this fiery throne of God. This point is really the end of the movement as a living force. From then on, it degenerates into mere literature. So apparently the historical documents were more of a strong tool to be able to reach this Merkabah, or this throne of God. But the documentation has been diluted over the years and is more of literature. It is therefore not surprising that the tracts, documents, in our possession clearly reflect two different stages. An older one in which the movement is still a living reality, the older secret documents, and in which therefore the seals and secret names occupy an important place. And the second phase, in which the process of degeneration has set in, and for this very reason, the study of the text presents few difficulties. In this second stage, the magical contents cease to represent a physical reality and are gradually eliminated. In this way, the old texts are gradually replaced by new devotional literature, at once stilted and lyrical, which employs the elements of the original Merkabah mysticism. So we can say Merkabah mysticism is just another name for Kabbalism, or, easy explanation, if you're using it for evil, witchcraft and sorcery. So I was thinking, reading that book on the encyclopedia about Germany and 1,000 years of conflict and incompatibility with the German Christian citizens and other citizens that probably weren't religious, I kept wondering, why can't they get along? Throughout history, what is it that these Jewish people, their culture, according to the Encyclopedia Judaica, has historically been Kabbalah, and all these other books, the Talmud, the Zohar, Midrash, and these documents I've been reading about here, into this mysticism, demons and angels? Would that create a conflict with their world, their living, their practices, their religion, with everybody else? With that said, these are the people now who seemingly are in control of the world, behind the New Age and the New World Order, the Illuminati and secret societies, these Luciferians. And they're going to, if they pull off their game and bring about some big event to create martial law or some kind of revolution and purge the world of all the people with any intellect or people who still believe in God and Jesus, the people who are left are going to have to be under the control of these people who couldn't get along with anybody else for thousands of years. Tell me where I'm wrong. And a lot of good Jewish people who believe in God and the biblical text, the Ten Commandments that Moses brought down from the mountain, they've been trying to warn us, whether you're Christian or Jewish or even Islamic or Buddhist or Hindu or people from all over the world, have been trying to warn about the evil. Because remember, the serpent symbol is all over the world. This is a greater thing than humanity. This is something from the spiritual realm. In the spiritual realm, these watchers, these archons, they probably weren't just influencing Jerusalem in the Middle East. They were all over the world. And all this has to do with the this New Age and New World Order, the Phoenix Rising. And remember, I showed these pictures of Conchita Wurst winning the contest of the Eurovision, which is like American Idol. And the two names, Conchita and Wurst, are sexual organs. Wurst, of course, is a sausage. You get it? Anyways, the point is 2014, you can look it up. She, Conchita Wurst, was singing the song, The Phoenix Rising, which has the words in it, "You can't stop us." Remember when I started this video, the billboard with the 3 6s and the eye and the rainbow colors? You can't stop us. And the devil's known as an androgynous being, male and female. Here's Eurovision with the rainbow colors. Remember the Merkaba? Look at the symbol. Eurovision, Merkaba. Eurovision, Merkaba. Man dressed in a woman's dress and Jesus-type head, beard. Can you see it? Just trying to put 2 and 2 together. I went through a lot of work to get here, and I've got a lot of work to finish reading this book. I'm only getting through a couple pages here. So the Merkaba is part of this Jewish mysticism religion, stuff they study quite intently. In our case, the first stage is represented by the greater and lesser Hiloloth. The second includes the numerous texts of the Midrash, or the 10 martyrs, and the alphabet of Rabbi Akibi, both of them writings which were particularly popular among the Jews of the Middle Ages. So here we go again. The Jews of the Middle Ages were seriously into this. And the Middle Ages was 1,000 years ago to about 500 years ago. And the Jews in Germany were having a lot of conflict with the emperor, and then later on with the local state and local town leaders and the citizens. So I'm reading this stuff, and I'm reading about all the troubles that people were having in Germany, and I was just asking myself, why were they continuously having problems? And, you know, what did that have to do with... This is what they were accused of, often enough, is Jewish ritual murder. And also something called desecrating the host. I looked that up. But apparently, we Catholics, if you go to Catholic Mass, you get a white piece of bread, and the body of Christ, Jesus, and the wine, the blood. Well, apparently, believe it or not, the Jewish people were accused back then, in Germany, of desecrating the host. That white wafer bread thing is called the host. It's supposed to represent the body of Jesus. So they would take the bread they would steal from the church. This is crazy. And they would put it on an altar, and they would take a knife and they would stab it like they were stabbing Jesus again. I looked it up. Go look it up yourself. I'm just doing research. I'm trying to find out why. What's going on. And a lot of Jewish people have written a lot of this material. And, you know, the Jewish elites apparently control Hollywood in the world. They're the one putting on these productions. They're giving us this stuff. This guy in the dress and the Jesus hair, named Cochita Worse. They're giving us the new TV show Gotham that just came out last week. The new 2017 spring series. And I watched the Gotham, and I watched the program Lucifer after. They're an hour each. And it's just like that bottled water billboard. It's all satanic. Something's not right. The dangers of the ascent through the palaces of the Merkaba sphere are great, particularly for those who undertake the journey without the necessary preparations, let alone those who are unworthy of its object. As the journey progresses, the dangers become progressively greater. Angels and archons, that's these beings, archons, storm against the traveler in order to drive him out. A fire which proceeds from his own body threatens to devour him. So you can see why when I got to this 50 pages into the major trends in Jewish mysticism, I said, yeah, this is what I need to read. It's just line after line of Jewish mysticism, the Jewish religion. Not all Jews, of course. How many Christians are actually religious? Not a lot. In the Hebrew book of Enoch, I've been making videos on that. I think I have one more video to make. There is an account of the description given by the patriarch to Rabbi Ishmael of his own metamorphosis into the angel Metatron. So look up the angel Metatron. When his flesh was transformed into fiery torches. According to the greater Hekaloth, every mystic must undergo this transformation. So I guess if you're going to become a mystic, a sorcerer, you have to go through this transformation. But with the difference is that being less worthy than Enoch, he is in danger of being devoured by the fiery torches. This transition through the opening stage of the process of mystical transfiguration is an ineludible necessity. According to another fragment, the mystic must be able to stand upright without hands and feet, both having been burned off. So I guess when you learn how to be this mystic, this Kabbalistic sorcerer, and you enter this other world, they cut off your hands and your feet and you have to float in the air under your own power. This standing without feet in bottomless space is mentioned elsewhere as a characteristic experience of many ecstatics. A mystical stage closely approximating to it is the referring to the apocalypse of Abraham. But the most remarkable passage of all is the interpretation given already in the Lesser Hekaloth of the famous fragment which is found in the Talmud, Jewish book, supposedly the evil one, the one that says they can have sex with children over 3 years old. And the Tosafot, and look that Talmud information up on YouTube videos, see what other people say. This little story is included in the few pages of the treatise Haggadah, which the Talmud devotes to the subject of contemporary mysticism. 4 entered paradise. Ben Azzi, Ben Zuma, Ahar and Rabbi Akiba. Rabbi Akiba spoke to them. When you come to the place of the shining marble plates, do not say, water, water. You ever seen one of those fountains where the water just slides over it in a restaurant or someplace, and the whole wall looks cool with the water being smooth? Looks like a marble plate. Well, you're not going to believe what it's going to say next. Do not say water, water. For it is written, he that telleth lies shall not tarry in my sight. Modern interpretations of this famous passage, which clearly enough refers to a real danger in the process of ascending to paradise. So you're trying to ascend to paradise, and this is one of your challenges. The first challenge is, and we've gone over this before, is having your feet and hands cut off and standing upright. I guess being in control of your magical powers. Are extremely far-fetched and not a little irrational in their determination at all costs to preserve the characteristic elements of rationalism. We are told that the passage is referred to a cosmological speculation about the materia prima, an explanation that lacks all plausibility and finds no support in the context or in the subject matter itself. The fact is that the later Merkabah mystics showed a perfectly correct understanding of the meaning of this passage, and their interpretation offers striking proof that the tradition of Tantinatic mysticism and theosophy was really alive among them, although certain details may have originated in a latter period. Remember, this is a lecture given to students by a teacher in this stuff, Jewish mysticism, this author. The following quotation is taken from the Munich manuscript of the Hekaloth text. So they had a Munich, Germany, they had one of these mystic schools. No small thing. Just like Zionism, no small thing. Just like the New Age and New World Order, no small thing. All these satanic and luciferic symbolisms, no small thing. I've been saying for a while, and I'm going to continue saying it, we humans are under attack. Or at least I should say, the Christian humans and other religious people, apparently the Islamic people have been under attack. So religion, period, the good religion, as taught by prophets and angels to people all over the world, they're under attack by archons and watchers and evil beings, demons. But if one was unworthy to see the king in this beauty, the angels at the gates disturbed his senses. So if you were unworthy and you were an initiate and you'd made it through the stages, the angels at the gate would sense it from you, that you were unworthy, and confuse him. So they would confuse you. And when they said to him, "Come in," he entered. And instantly they pressed him and threw him into a fiery lava stream. So you made it all this way and they sensed you weren't worthy. And they said, "Come on in." And they grabbed you and threw you into a stream of lava, molten lava, according to what it says here. Again, we're just trying to understand this Jewish religion. What makes the Jewish people incompatible with living with the rest of us and wanting to take over the world, and including other people who are in cahoots with them? I'm sure these archons and other watchers and demon angels have probably tricked other people instead of just some of these Jewish people. And of course, a lot of Jewish people are not Jewish. They're Khazarian, and they were known to be barbaric and ruthless. Ashkenazi Jews, Yiddish Jews that Henry Ford wrote about in his books. aspects of Jewish power in the United States. Maybe he should have wrote aspect of European Akhenazis who converted to Jewish religion aspects in the United States. And of course, it's not all of them. But apparently there's a lot of them, and they are into this stuff. We can clearly see the bizarreness going on in our world. That's not normal. The devil is androgynous. Look at the picture's Baal, B-A-A-L. Remember, they were trying to put the Temple of Baal in New York City and London last year, not too long ago. And the people were in uproar, religious people who understood. It's just an archway, some kind of portal with symbols on it. Witchcraft? Anyways, out of UNESCO, the United Nations, I discovered, and I'm sure other people did, they were trying to put up 1,000 of these monuments all over the world. There's something going on. So I thought a little peeking into this religion might be beneficial. So we left off where this initiate is trying to approach the Merkabah, the heavenly throne of God. The angels at one of the gates sense he's not worthy. They invite him in and grab him and throw him into a fiery lava stream. And at the gate of the 6th palace, it seemed as though hundreds of thousands of millions of waves of water stormed against him, and yet there was not a drop of water, only the ethereal glitter of the marble plates with which the palace was tesselated. So that's the 6th palace. But when he was standing in front of the angels, and when he asked, "What is the meaning of these waters?" This is important, I thought. And the angels began to stone him and said, "Wench, wretch, do you not see it with your eyes? Are you perhaps a descendant of those who kissed the golden calf?" You know about the golden calf? When Moses went up to the mountain to get the 2 commandments, the 10 commandments, the 2 tablets. Again, I'm getting ready to finish this video. I start misspeaking after I get a little worn out. Well, anyways, Moses comes down the mountain with the 2 tablets. And apparently all the Hebrews, the Jews, I don't like calling them Jews, I like calling them Hebrews, that he had led out of Egypt with apparently God's heavenly powers, the 7 plagues or whatever. And they had collected all the gold and made a golden calf and were having a drunken orgy, some kind of satanic ritual. He smashed the golden, I am misspeaking, he smashed the 2 tablets containing the 10 commandments and had to punish the Hebrews. And he had to go back up the mountain for 40 days to get 2 more tablets. So anyways, here's this guy that's an initiate. He makes it to the 6th palace. He sees this wall of water, tons of water coming on this marble. And he says, "What is the meaning of these waters?" And the angels there begin to stone him with stones and said, "Wretch, do you not see with your own eyes? Are you perhaps a descendant of those who kissed the golden calf?" So I just told you about Moses and the calf. "And are you unworthy to see the king in his beauty? And he does not go until they strike his head with iron bars and wound him. And this shall be a sign for all times that no one shall err at the gate of the 6th palace, and see the ethereal glitter of the plates, and ask about them, and take them for water, that he may not endanger himself." So I guess if you're going to wind up getting to the 6th gate, and you see this wall of marble with water rushing over it, apparently you're looking at God. Are you unworthy to see the King in his beauty? So with that said, I've got a lot more to read here and a whole lot more videos to make. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.